So empaths, this is a follow-up to the video about racial battle syndrome with Dr. J. Imani Walker. I want to read in her comment sections the excitement that we as a people are having. And just in case those of you that don't get what we are talking about, don't get the correlation, think that it's just a minute, or as I like to subjugate, minority experience. It is not. We are the majority, and I want to share with you what the majority is saying. And before I share with you what the majority is saying, for those of you who are new, maybe it's the first time you're watching this video, racial battle syndrome is the mental health struggle that we do not talk about. According to Imani Walker, DO psychiatrist and star of Bravo's latest spinoff, Married to Medicine Los Angeles. The struggle of being Black in America can cause a mental health struggle. For those who have never heard the term, Dr. coins it as racial battle syndrome. It is a maelstrom of frustrations and feelings that are of inadequacies based on this country's lack of action to acknowledge that we matter. So the easy things to deal with are the macroaggressions, but when you deal with microaggressions, you're dealing with another kind of gaslighting, Walker said. And then you have a situation where Black people are the biggest living survivors of PTSD ever. Ultimately, Walker believes the power to rehabilitate and heal lies within the collective. In addition to therapy, regaining a strong sense of pride in the Black identity and loving and celebrating of oneself is at the top of her list. And I want to reiterate what I've said in the past and what I'm going to continue to say. Racism is society's integral gaslight, and a reminder of what gaslighting is. It is when you psychologically manipulate an individual or individuals and lie and pretend and manipulate the facts of what is actually happening, what they're seeing, what they're doing, putting into question the sanity of the person that is in question in terms of the person that's being gaslit. And so when we get into the comment sections at the moment, this is 4 days ago, there's about 70 comments. And so I'm going to start. There's no real way to go in order with the comments. So I'm just going to go with, we rarely talk about it. The impact of racial discrimination has on individuals as mental health. Dr. Imani responds, I sincerely don't know why. Socioeconomic and racial factors are linked to so many other diseases. Why not mental illness? Another one says, I do not understand either, because institutional racism leads to poverty, homelessness, racial disparity, and racial boundaries, which directly affect a person's coping mechanisms and slowly destroy the brain's ability to produce happy chemicals, i.e. serotonin. So then someone says, Dr. Imani, any advice for my daughter that may want to become a psychiatrist? Dr. Imani responds, be empathetic. Find the beauty in those society teaches us aren't worthy. And work really, really hard. It's worth it in the end. Another responds, mine just graduated in January and is going to university for psychology. I'm glad you asked this. Thank you. One woman says, at Dr. Imani, you and I have in common baldness, NYC origins, and an iffy father, and mental health. I couldn't contain my excitement the first time you appeared on my screen. Then finding out your story made me proud and hopeful. You're a goddess and I'm rooting for you. Dr. Imani responded, thank you, with a bunch of hearts. Someone else says, thank you for bringing this to light. And it's okay for Black people to be friendly with other Blacks in a mixed setting. Some of y'all be scared to make eye contact. That's facts. Dr. Imani responds, this irritates me to no end. Someone else says, come on with a Frantz Fanon gem for the culture. Dr. Imani responds, always. And what are they talking about with a Frantz Fanon gem? When Dr. Imani posted this, and if you're looking to seek her out, come on, y'all. We all know how to find the things that we want and the people that we want, but for those of us who act like we don't know, she's Dr.Imani on Instagram. And I can't remember what it is on Facebook, but Imani J. Walker is her name, Dr. Imani J. Walker, psychiatrist. She said in her post, hashtag Black Lives Matter and hashtag Black mental health matters too. We have all been affected by trauma, whether we choose to acknowledge this or not. Thank you to the Mighty Site and the Sheridan channel for choosing me to speak more on racial battle syndrome. Be sure to familiarize yourself with Frantz Fanon if you haven't already. Frantz Fanon is a known psychiatrist that is known for studying these types of mental health disorders in the context of our programming, our post-traumatic slave syndrome that Dr. Joy DeGruy has spoken about, and the lack of healing that has been in place, especially for the mental. And another person says to her, I just watched some videos of Black people living in Japan, and they have said, besides the wow factor of Japanese not really seeing Black people before, they said it's the best experience ever and wouldn't come back to the States. One girl who was born and raised in Japan came to the States just for high school and was really ready to go home back to Japan. And someone else says, a lot of us work on a modern day plantation. We're just getting paid. If you don't believe me, go to work and work out of your workstation and look at the cubicle setup. Hashtag PTSS, post-traumatic slave syndrome, she says. Another says, this is so on point, sad but true. I work in corporate America and I can't begin to tell you some of the things I experience. Another says, we really, really need more of this topic discussed broadly, as it is such a stigma in communities of color to address their mental health. Thanks, Dr. Imani, another one says, for bringing this very important matter up. I love you on the Married to Medicine LA. You are a breath of fresh air. And interestingly, for those of you who might have misperceptions, no matter how much the conversation is geared to us as Black people, we are in a world in which we are all a part of this world, but Black people are the most confused in terms of being able to agree on simply what do we call ourselves. Are we Black? Are we African American? Are we African? Are we Indian? Some don't even want to label, don't want to have to call us a name. Some don't even understand that white and Blacks are constructs of white fragility and racism in the first place. And so even though we are in a world and we are all of one people, we all come from one place, which is the dark matter, the matrix, the womb man, Black woman and child, it just disrupts that fragility within the white construct. And so we are very divisive in how we show up in this world. And so for those of you that are sick and tired of having to hear about how Black lives matter and you feel that it should be all lives matter, you need to remember that that onus is upon you, and that onus is upon your community that have set the constructs up in the first place. Black Lives Matter would not need to exist if we were not seen in the first place, because in the very verbiage that people like to use, I'm not racist because I'm married to a Black person, I'm not racist because I have Black friends, and I'm not racist because I don't see color. Those three things are the top three racist responses that you can give when a Black person is addressing racial ill constructs. Because to not see my Blackness is to not see my holistic self. To not see my holistic self is to not understand me. To not understand me is to not understand how and why I show up in the world, why I do the things that I do. And for you to be ignorant, to say that you don't see color, when we see that as simple things like our hair, if you choose to be ignorant and you say that you don't see my hair, you don't see my color, that if you adopt me as a child and I have a different type of hair texture and a different kind of requirement for the mental health and mental sanity, or just for the luxuriousness of my hair to grow and to be its best, then you are detrimental to my mental health. You are detrimental to my expansion. You are detrimental to how I show up in the world, because you refuse to simply open up your eyes and see me. And I was inspired to just say that because, interestingly enough, on this comment thread, you have white and Black people having this conversation. So it's not just us who see it. It's if you choose to see it. Because you have white people like Jane Elliott that have dedicated her life to waking up her people to see and to speak for those of us that you choose to not see. You choose to not see Black people. Another one said, she hit it on the nose, so true. All we're doing as a collective is surviving. And this all has to change, and fast. Another says, healthcare disparities is real and crazy. It's sad how studies show people of color are treated so badly with their health, medical insurance, and disabled veterans. And as I mentioned before, you need to get the book Medical Apartheid. You need to get all of these books, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome. And when it comes to the medical apartheid, it is an interesting read because it brings us to the forefront of how and why it is that we as a people, Black people, African Americans, whatever you want to call yourself, have found ourselves to be as we are showing up in the world, and why we have to address things in the context of who we are. And it's disruptive to some people. Some people don't like that. Some people don't want us to address and highlight the particulars of what we have experienced in the context of facts and truths, because it's a very dark history. Medical apartheid traces the convoluted history of medical experimentations on Black Americans in the United States. Since the middle of the 18th century, Harriet Washington argues that diverse forms of racial discrimination have shaped both the relationship between white physicians and Black patients, and the attitude of the latter towards modern medicine in general. The book is divided into 3 parts. The first is about the cultural memory of medical experimentation. The second examines recent cases of medical abuse and research, while the last addresses the complex relationship between racism and medicine. Some topics discussed are well known, such as Tuskegee, syphilis experiment from 1932 to 1972, in which African Americans were injected with a disease in order to allow the evolution of disease so it can be observed in all stages. But other episodes are less well known to the general public. The book also mentions cases of medical experimentation in Africa and their links to African American cases. Those who want to know, do their due diligence. Those that want to know, they go pick up the books, they go do the research, and they find the answers to the questions. And those that want to dismantle and discount the facts that we bring forward, those are also the ones that avoid books like Medical Apartheid and books like Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome, because it doesn't serve their narrative. However, we give thanks for the doctors, the people who are doing the work within mental health correlated to the experience of the context of our Black experience. So, powerful beings, if there's anything that I said that resounds here for you, subscribe, like, share, and comment. And remember to return to your nature. It has the roots to heal you.